On his very first day after transferring, Seok Chan, fresh off his victory at the National High School Boxing Championship, immediately stomped the school's top bully into submission. But just as his classmates thought that justice had arrived, Seok Chan turned his attention to the academic ace, Woo Sol. Without hesitation, he brutally assaulted him, slapping him around, and even grabbing him by the throat. The class president tried to intervene, but Seok Chan struck her too, leaving everyone terrified and silent. No one could believe how brazen he was, and it seemed that the class president might become his next victim. But just then, Woo Sol made a move to stop him. It turns out, back in middle school, Woo Sol had been Seok Chan's personal punching bag. Every day was filled with dread and fear, as he was beaten so severely that at one point he considered ending his life. After enduring 3 torturous years, Woo Sol thought his nightmare was over when middle school ended. But now, in his final semester of high school, the demon had returned. Seok Chan had transferred into his class, and naturally, Woo Sol became the target once more. Every humiliation piled on, and the more Woo Sol endured without fighting back, the more vicious Seok Chan became. The other students had never witnessed such cruelty, and fear kept them silent. Eventually, Seok Chan's violence reached its peak. He left Woo Sol severely injured, seemingly satisfied, until Woo Sol did something unexpected. He stood up, trembling, holding a pen in his hand. Seok Chan, always one to mock, provocatively aimed the pen at his own eye, daring Woo Sol to strike. In a flash of desperation, Woo Sol did just that, stabbing Seok Chan's eye and leaving him screaming in agony. The once feared bully was reduced to a howling mess, clutching his wound. However, this act of defiance cost Woo Sol dearly. He was charged with attempted murder and, seeking peace for his tormented soul, he shockingly confessed in court. Despite his young age, he was sent to prison, where he found himself surrounded by hardened criminals. He nervously sat next to a seemingly unremarkable man, unaware that this man, Do Hyun, was the real danger. Do Hyun had recently become the world champion in mixed martial arts, but tragedy struck when he returned home to find both his sister and mother brutally murdered. Before he could process the loss, the killers attacked him, but they quickly realized they'd picked the wrong fight. Do Hyun easily overpowered them, but his rage consumed him, and his fists delivered fatal blows. He was arrested for the deaths of 3 men, a case that shocked all of South Korea. In prison, Do Hyun's formidable strength and reputation made him untouchable, but Woo Sol wasn't so lucky. The prison was ruled by 2 dangerous factions, one led by the hulking Lee Dusu, whose brute strength crushed anyone who dared cross him, and the other by Jo Byung-hee, a small but lethal fighter known for his lightning-fast kicks. They were both people you absolutely didn't want to mess with. But before the senior inmate even finished speaking, they heard someone from afar calling them to join a soccer game. As the newbie, Woo Sol was naturally the first pick. Little did he know, this game would change his entire prison life. One kick nearly left Lee Dusu unable to ever have kids. Woo Sol, the culprit, stood frozen in terror. As expected, Lee Dusu's lackeys soon dragged him off toward the bathroom. Just then, Do Hyun happened to walk by. Lee Dusu quickly signaled his guys to be cautious. Woo Sol knew this was his only chance and desperately broke free from the hands holding him. He ran straight to Do Hyun, dropped to his knees, and begged for help. Seeing this, the righteous Do Hyun told him to stand up and follow. But this move didn't sit well with Lee Dusu, the prison boss. After all, if he let Woo Sol off the hook so easily, how could he maintain his authority in front of his crew? Do Hyun's strength left Woo Sol in awe, but after that, he had fully crossed Lee Dusu, who now glared at him with murderous eyes every day. Even his cellmates urged him to kneel and apologize. Just as he was dealing with this, another problem arose. Seok Chan, the guy Woo Sol accidentally blinded in one eye, showed up during visitation and threatened to wait for him outside. This completely shattered Woo Sol's mental defenses, and he broke down in tears, begging for mercy. But crying didn't solve anything. Needing air, he opened the window and spotted Do Hyun working out in the yard, and in that moment, he had an epiphany. He rushed downstairs, determined to ask Do Hyun to take him as a student. But why would someone like Do Hyun agree to that? To test his resolve, Do Hyun said he'd only take him on if he ran 100 laps around the yard. To his surprise, the stubborn kid actually started running. By the 70th lap, Woo Sol's body began to give out, and he even threw up from the strain. But that feeling triggered a memory back in middle school, when Seok Chan had choked him until he nearly passed out, even causing him to wet himself in terror. Recalling that humiliation fueled something inside him, and he pushed forward with sheer willpower. Even the battle-hardened Du Hyan was moved by his unbreakable spirit. From that day on, Du Hyan put Wu Sol through a grueling training regimen, but Wu Sol's physical condition was so poor that he couldn't even manage a single pull-up. Thankfully, with a world champion fighter as his coach, Wu Sol's stamina gradually improved, and over time, his punches started to show real promise. However, the stronger Wu Sol became, the more nervous Lee Dusu grew. Desperate to strike back, Lee Dusu set his sights on Wu Sol's only friend. Luckily, Wu Sol saw their plan coming. When they attacked, Wu Sol arrived just in time to stop them. It was clear now Wu Sol feared no opponent, but this act of defiance enraged Lee Dusu, who immediately ordered the bruised lackey to drag Wu Sol to him. Wu Sol knew this showdown was inevitable. If he didn't confront Lee Dusu now, his friend would face endless harassment, even if he himself could handle the threats. And so, he walked straight into Lee Dusu's territory without hesitation. The final confrontation between the two had officially begun. At first, all Wu Sol could do was rely on his agility, dodging Lee Dusu's powerful punches, but despite his best efforts, the experienced Lee Dusu found an opening. Still, all those days of training weren't for nothing. Wu Sol braced himself, ready to counterattack. The punch that landed hurt like hell, and Lee Dusu wasn't about to give him a break. Grabbing Wu Sol by the neck and relentlessly pounding him, Wu Sol tried to fight back, but his punches had no effect on Lee Dusu. Instead, Lee caught him again and delivered another brutal beatdown. The two exchanged blows, and though both landed punches squarely on each other's faces, Wu Sol, being smaller and weaker, stumbled back several steps. Seizing the moment, Lee Dusu kicked him into a corner and unleashed a flurry of punches to his head. Wu Sol managed to shield himself, but in the end, he couldn't withstand Lee's onslaught and collapsed to the ground. Lee Dusu and his lackeys smiled in victory, but in Wu Sol's world, there was no such thing as giving up. Driven by sheer willpower, he shakily got back on his feet. In a shocking turn, he used a headbutt to knock Lee Dusu down. Wu Sol seized the momentum, pinning Lee Dusu to the ground and unleashing a torrent of punches, pouring out all the anger and humiliation he had endured over the years. Just as Wu Sol was about to lose control, a large hand stopped his fist mid-air. It was none other than his mentor, Du Hyan. The fight was over, with Wu Sol emerging victorious. He had finally shed his former cowardly self, but before he could fully savor his win, the next day brought bittersweet news. Du Hyan was being transferred to another prison. Before leaving, Du Hyan offered some final words of wisdom, speaking with deep sincerity. "Yes, Wu Sol, you're like a shark without a swim bladder now. The only way to survive is to keep moving forward." But just as his mentor Du Hyan left, Wu Sol found himself in the crosshairs of another prison boss, Jo Byung-hee. Though Wu Sol had no interest in being the prison king, there could only be one boss in a place like this, and he had no choice but to agree to a duel. Only by claiming the top spot could he hope to change the brutal survival of the fittest rules in the prison. At first, Jo Byung-hee had the upper hand, dominating the fight with ease. He toyed with Wu Sol, even exposing weak spots on purpose to bait him into attacking his legs. Sure enough, the veteran's cunning showed, but Wu Sol hadn't been training for nothing these past few months. He waited for the perfect moment and landed a solid kick, knocking Jo Byung-hee to the ground. Wu Sol quickly mounted him and began unleashing a barrage of punches, even locking in a submission hold on Jo's arm. Despite the pain from Jo's counterattack, Wu Sol refused to quit. He had come too far to back down now after all. A shark without a swim bladder can't stop moving. Giving up was no longer in his vocabulary. As the fight dragged on, both men's stamina began to wane. Jo Byung-hee launched another attack, but this time, Wu Sol dodged with ease and countered by locking his opponent's neck in a chokehold. It was a move that left Jo Byung-hee with no chance of escape. The surrounding lackeys began to stir, sensing the inevitable end. Finally, in a surprising act of surrender, Jo Byung-hee tapped out. With that, Wu Sol officially became the top dog in the prison. Under his leadership, the inmates slowly started living in peace, breaking the usual cycle of violence. However, just as Woo Sol was preparing for his release. Seok Chan, the man who once vowed revenge, came to visit him again. This time, though, Seok Chan's aura had changed. He seemed far more powerful than before. Something was different about him, and it was clear this encounter would not be the same as their last. After threatening Woo Sol last time, Seok Chan, already in a foul mood, wandered the streets. Unexpectedly, two thugs mocked him for being blind in one eye. Seok Chan, who had always been the bully, wasn't used to being disrespected. He chased after their car and smashed the side mirror with a powerful kick, determined to settle the score. As a former boxing champion, it took him only seconds to knock both thugs out cold, but what he didn't notice was a man quietly approaching from behind the boss of the two thugs. Impressed by Seok Chan's skill, the man invited him to join his gang, but Seok Chan, full of pride, rejected the offer without hesitation. Surprisingly, the boss didn't get angry. Instead, he offered Seok Chan a deal. If Seok could dodge his attack for 3 seconds, he'd help him restore his sight in the blind eye. From that moment, Seok Chan officially joined the gang, using his fierce punches to rise quickly through the ranks. Before long, he became the boss's top enforcer. However, Seok Chan never forgot the pain of his right eye and the humiliation Woo Sol had caused. Revenge became his obsession. Woo Sol, knowing a showdown was inevitable, began training day and night. He even sought out Jo Byung-hee for lessons on kicking techniques. Finally, the day came when Woo Sol was released from prison, but as soon as he stepped outside, Seok Chan was there, blocking his path. Still bent on revenge, before the fight began, Woo Sol wanted to know why Seok Chan had targeted him in the first place. The answer? Because I was bored. Hearing this, Woo Sol clenched his fists. As the fight kicked off, Seok Chan, the former boxing champ, dominated early, outpacing Woo Sol, who had just claimed the title of Prison King. But Woo Sol soon found an opening, countering with knee strikes. The fight evened out, neither side able to land a devastating blow. Then Seok Chan crossed the line. He insulted Woo Sol's mother. That was the trigger. Enraged, Woo Sol launched a flurry of punches, but Seok Chan dodged them effortlessly and landed a solid punch to Woo Sol's face. Was Seok Chan truly an insurmountable obstacle for Woo Sol? Before Woo Sol could catch his breath, Seok Chan came in with another powerful punch aimed at his head. Fortunately, Woo Sol blocked in time, grabbing Seok Chan's arm and delivering a punch squarely to his face. To everyone's surprise, this punch excited Seok Chan even more. Infuriated, he ramped up his aggression, unable to accept that the person he once bullied had landed a hit on him. What followed was brutal. Seok Chan used his shirt to blindfold Woo Sol and delivered a punch that nearly knocked him out. But as Woo Sol lay there, he began to reflect. He remembered the days when Seok Chan bullied him, and recalled his mentor's advice to keep swimming like a shark. Fueled by these memories, Woo Sol, despite his near-paralyzed state, stood up once more. This time, he wouldn't back down. He had to defeat the man who had tormented him for so long. Woo Sol found an opening, countering Seok Chan's punch with his head taking the hit directly. The impact left Seok Chan crying out in pain. Now enraged and desperate, Seok Chan launched a chaotic barrage of punches, but Woo Sol remained calm and composed, dodging every hit. With perfect timing, he used the kicking techniques Jo Byung-hee had taught him to knock Seok Chan to the ground. For the first time, Seok Chan felt the change in Woo Sol. But in the end, words meant nothing. Only fists could decide the outcome. The fight entered its final phase, both men relentlessly trading punches, refusing to back down. Each strike carried the weight of their determination, neither willing to surrender until one of them fell or gave up. In a twist no one saw coming, Seok Chan, the once unstoppable force, finally showed fear. Even though he roared in frustration, it was clear to Woo Sol that Seok Chan had become his defeated foe. All the fear Woo Sol once held toward him vanished in an instant. More importantly, he had finally let go of his weakness, achieving what he once thought was impossible. The story ends here.
석천아,